Parts of the Ohio Valley and the Mid-Atlantic woke up to fall-like temperatures this morning, and that may be only the beginning of what may be in store for next week, as early signs of the teleconnections are starting to hint at a much bigger cool down as we head into Labor Day weekend. So let's take a look at the setup going forward. These are actual temperatures this morning, folks, real-time temperatures as you woke up into the upper Great Lakes. A good part of the Ohio Valley, the Mid-Atlantic, and portions of the Northeast there. Those are 50s, folks. Very pleasant, like almost fall-like conditions. It almost felt like it was October 1st rather than, say, August the 20th. And even some of these areas across the northern portions of Wisconsin and Michigan actually saw some 30s this morning. And yes, that may be only the beginning as the jet stream starts to buckle. That's going to bring down some of those cooler anomalies a little bit further south. Yes, you guys, in portions of the Southeast and even Florida maybe get a glancing blow by the time we head into Thursday. Also, the Pacific Northwest is also going to be taking advantage of a little bit of a cool down as we head into especially Friday and Saturday. But out in the tropics, look at the widespread view on the satellite. Yeah, there's not much going on, folks, in the Atlantic. It's pretty widespread quietness out there across the Atlantic. Really, the Pacific is actually pretty active. In fact, if you zoom all the way out into Hawaii, we've got a bona fide chance of this actually becoming a storm. Right now, we have an 80% probability this forms into a tropical type entity. And if that continues, some guidance does in fact come near Hawaii as a tropical storm in about 5 to 6 days. So we'll definitely be watching this because it's not too often actually Hawaii sees a storm, but this may be actually pretty close. So we'll be keeping an eye on this system in the days ahead. But yes, one of the culprits is we've been predominantly in an end zone neutral. Most of the guidance was in fact leading towards that La Nina starting a little bit sooner, and it still hasn't. It's still coming, but it's still sort of lagging. And look at the sinking air. I mean, this is why nothing is forming. Look at all the sinking air. That's the red shaded color over the highlighted main development region. Whenever you see something like that, there's not much upward rising motion air on the vertical velocity index, so it's hard to get those organizations of showers and thunderstorms. And that's why you see, you know, kind of widespread clearing, and we're going into a busy time. So it definitely appears that for the rest of August, it actually remains on the quiet side on the tropical front. But yes, we're going to be talking about some cooler temperatures, and you thought this morning was nice. Wait till you feel tomorrow morning. We'll have a lot more 40s showing up on the map in a good part of Pennsylvania, much of the Ohio Valley, and into the Northeast, as a little bit stronger cool down starts to take shape as some of those clearing skies start to unfold, and some of those temperature anomalies start to drag a little bit further south as well. So some of those areas in, say, Kentucky, back into Tennessee, you're just going to start to feel the effects of this cooler air mass that slowly shifts and settles down into the southeast. And yes, there are temperatures as you wake up on Thursday morning, even more widespread 50s and 40s kind of showing up on the map for a good part of, you know, the Great Lakes and much of the Ohio Valley, the Tennessee Valley, getting into the Mid-Atlantic and in the Northeast. So you're definitely going to be feeling kind of a brief taste of fall, if you will. And but eventually what's going to happen is I think the teleconnections are going to be trending and having another push of cooler air as we extend into late next week. So between now and then, here's the rainfall estimates, and it's fairly dry, but behind these sharp air masses of cooler air, not much going on. So where that front is draped across the good part of Florida, that's where you have most of the action this week. Is that stalled frontal boundary will just kind of send a conveyor belt of showers and thunderstorms across a good part of central Florida. But other than that, I mean, a good part of the Northeast is going to be starting to dry out, and you definitely need it, especially for those areas in Connecticut. We do have a little bit of a monsoonal flow, and of course where the lower pressure start to enter across a good part of, you know, the Pacific Northwest. you're going to start to experiencing some of those showers and thunderstorms. But yes, a lot of, it's not going to be very humid. I would say as a good part into the Ohio Valley, especially where you have some of those lower pressures. It's going to be a little bit drier air, and that's one of the reasons why we're going to be so dry in parts of those regions. But as we head into Thursday and beyond, I think most of those cooler anomalies are going to start to retreat as the ridge of high pressure will start to build back in, and as it does, the low pressure will start to build into the Pacific Northwest. So now we're talking some lower pressures up here into British Columbia, back into Washington and Oregon, Northern California, Nevada, back into Idaho. Those areas are going to be starting to experience a sharp cool down. So likely about 2 days, but it's going to be coming in with a vengeance with those drastic drop in temperatures with a good 20 to 25 degrees in portions of Northern California and Oregon. You're going to be feeling these cooler anomalies really settle in. Of course, further you live all off the coast, the better chances you're going to be able to feel the sharp contrast in temperatures, and it's all complements of this developing trough that will be building back on the backside as this ridge of high pressure will start building back again across the middle part of the country and likely extend into the Northeast, where you're experiencing those pleasant light conditions. You're going to be starting to warm up as we head into this weekend ahead, while much of the Pacific Northwest is going to be cooling down in a big way. But now let's take a look at what may be to come by the time we head into the end of August. Look at the teleconnections. Now, we typically start to look at this when we go into transitional months like we are. We're going into fall, which technically starts, meteorologically fall technically starts on September 1st. And so we'll look at, and that's more or less considered a kind of a transitional month where you start to appear some of these cool downs. And that's exactly what we're going to be seeing. If you look at the North American oscillation, it's kind of hinting that already it's been predominantly positive. So even though we are getting some of those cool downs, it's not allowing that colder air to sink that far south. But you can see this noticeable drop in the overall teleconnections by the time we head into the end of August, heading to your Labor Day weekend. Labor Day is your September 2nd time frame. So as we head towards Labor Day weekend, we're actually going to be seeing the NAO go negative, and that should allow the jet stream starting to buckle and release some of those cooler anomalies and have a stronger push. And I think that push will likely extend all the way into the middle part of the country. And then as we head into Labor Day weekend, it's likely going to enter those areas like Oklahoma, Texas, portions of the deep south. Yes, you're going to be starting to feel the cool down ahead. So that's going to be something to look forward to. But between now and then, here's the rain prospects over the next 7 days. So going to be predominantly where that cool front is, where it's draped across that stalled frontal boundary. That's where most of the precipitation is going to be, really out in the open waters of the Atlantic into the Gulf of Mexico. But then there's Florida in between. You're going to be getting those, 2, 3, if not almost 4 inches of rainfall over a good part of the state over the course of the week. And then you'll have the monsoonal flow, which will likely lead to more isolated to scattered showers and thunderstorms in and around the Four Corners regions. And then, of course, where you have some of the lower pressures building in, more unsettled weather will come back, and some rain prospects will come back for Washington and Oregon, Idaho, Montana, and back into Northern California. So as we head into next week, at the beginning of the week, we are going to be seeing that air mass start to retreat. So you are going to be warming up. So, you're going to be starting to retreat back onto the warmer side. But all indications are, as the ridge will start to shift back off to the west, that will allow that jet stream to start to buckle and send a piece of some of those cooler anomalies, especially as that NAO goes negative there. We'll start to see a piece of energy come out of Canada and drop into Montana. That's by the time we head into the middle of next week. We're talking like the 28th time frame. But as we head towards the 30th time frame, heading towards your Labor Day weekend, that air mass is going to have enough push. It's going to be so cool for this time of year. It's going to have legs with it, and especially the teleconnections are going to be telling it and said, hey, we're going negative, and that says, hey, we could be looking at extending this all the way into the deep south, and that's likely what's going to happen as we head into that Friday, but especially heading into Saturday. We start to see, by the time the 31st of the month to end August, we definitely start to see those 10, 15 degrees cooler anomalies start to enter the picture for those areas into Oklahoma, into Texas, New Mexico. You know, all these areas have been kind of missing out on the cooler air. I think we're finally going to be, you know, in for a little bit of a surprise coming up on for your Labor Day weekend, heading into Arkansas, even portions of Louisiana. And of course, this is a long ways out, but it definitely appears a lot of the teleconnections, the ensembles are starting to hint at early signs that this likely will come to fruition. And as it does, it's going to start cold, and because of that colder air mass, it's going to have enough legs to push it all the way into the southeast and much of the deep south with those 10 to 15 degrees cooler anomalies. So we're talking potential in the 80s coming up for your Labor Day weekend. That should feel pretty nice, especially for those areas that have been locked into the hundreds for what seems like the foreseeable future. So guys, I appreciate you guys watching. Do like this video, definitely hit the subscribe button, and catch my next update while I protect you before and after the storm.